podcast listeners, if you hear my voice right now, I need you to do something for me. I want you to take out your phone or on your computer, go to Apple Podcasts, search for Ask Your Oldhead podcast. You'll see my logo, my little picture, my little image there. Find the show. Please rate and write a review. It's a small thing, but it helps others find this work and find what I'm doing here. And it really, really matters, as small as that may seem. So if you could please do that before we get into the show, I would much appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Let's get into it. Peace. Peace. Thank you for your patience and steadfastness in the long delay between recording and release on this one here. As always, take the best part for yourself. Peace. Peace. I'm Majestic.
My brother, Justice Rajee.
Man, how are you doing today?
You know what, God, I'm positive, man. Choosing peace, you know what I mean? And, there is something to be said for being grateful, being thankful for the position that you have put yourself in, the position that you find yourself in regard to even things we take for granted sometimes. And we've talked about this, like, there are places where there's a debate if the water is going to be warm, right? Like when you go to take the shower,
Mm-hmm.
there's some debates on that. And, people, it's a 50-50 sometimes for folks. So while, we continuously fight against systems and situations that harm people, I think, kind of positionality also says kind of think about the relative privilege that you have, to be able to make the change that you want for yourself and for others, and the ability just on, this day of wisdom knowledge to be able to apply what you know to be able to bring about what you want to see in your understanding. So, I'm positive, man. How about yourself?
I'm good. I guess, might as well just get into the first thing to talk about also. It's still a bit surreal. So I may have said explicitly or may not have said explicitly in one of the prior podcasts this spring or, since the beginning, since I decided to do this, but I, ran for school board in my community here in Oregon in the Beaverton School District. And the election was this week and I won. I'm currently at 62.91% of the vote. And it's I've never run for office. We talk about politics and political, stuff here and running for office and service. And, I ran because I, trying to live within my own values, that this was a role that I thought, and I still feel, now that I'm in position to do it, that I could serve, and that also, what you have to go through to run for public office, that it was a trade-off that I was ready to engage in, right? In an experience or a decision I was ready to engage in. The surreal thing about it is that, like, I wasn't sure what happens once the vote happens, right? Like, does somebody come by the house to like hand you like a platinum plaque or something? Like
hand you a note,
like hand you a note, like you're now the one. Like, but it has been quite an experience the last couple months, and I know you know about this, but I think for the benefit of those listening, and then also I think for just some catharsis for myself, like the process of deciding to run for an office, even in I think in some communities your school board might not be as I don't know, hotly contested or as large of a voter pool as mine is. We're at 37,000 folks voted so far in my district. I think it's.
What percentage of that? Was that a pretty high percentage of the available vote?
It's let's see. I don't know if the statewide turnout is 26.5%. I don't know if this is I'd have to look to double check, but I think that's around. I think it's like 270 voters in approximately, like in the school district map. zone area, and so it's like a quarter practice, which is for these type of elections usually is around what you could expect, 23% to 25% is what I've been told by the experts. So
anytime you get 37,000 people voted out of 270,000, I mean, just do the quick math. I mean, I think you got a good number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So but one thing I'll just say, just in case anybody that's listening happens to actually also vote. Thank you for voting for justice. I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying? One love. I see you while I'm doing the work in a couple months.
Cool shit.
You know what I'm saying? Out here school
sitting
stuff.
sitting on the podium,
right.
Doing Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, man. Robert's Rules of Order. Love Robert's Rules of Order. Lots of motions and seconds. And did they do? They do some seconds and motions. I've been watching all the meetings, and I feel like I also other places I show up in my life professionally. It's like it seems to be different rules, or at least a lot more of them. Like they're like I need a second on the thing and a third on the first, and like you sit and listen to enough state legislative committee meetings, and like they got to do stuff like we got bills, got to pass a thing. Can I get a motion? Second on the thing. You know what I mean? It's almost like an auctioneer because they might have a bunch of them to smash through to get through. Here we do a hearing, and then a work session, and then they'll do a vote. Which is not. I don't know if that's always the same in
process. Yeah.
In other places, but here that's the way that it always goes. And so, like when you're any event, that's where I get off in the weeds. I just want to say it's been very interesting, and here I just want to share that, you give me any your thoughts on these, but like, the first thing that comes to mind that I kind of learned in this process is that like your own kind of reputation and relationship to people, right? And people, because you got to do first thing, you got to decide you're gonna do it, right? And then you got to get like to like structural stuff. You got to like get a bank account and create a political action committee and all that stuff, which is more like paperwork type stuff. But the other thing is, you need to actually talk to some people and go like, does anyone that's already elected, or at least that could help me with the process, think I'm a good person to do this, right? Which is, I think you could maybe assume that, since we live in a representative democracy, you just sign up and then you go run, which you can do. But like at some point, if you're going to be successful, you're going to need help from people that have already done this. So you're not wasting time doing stuff that, isn't really going to help you win. But also, people and institutions, are the bridge for other people to get to know you, because it's not easy to get to know somebody that's running for office. So that whole part of like calling different electeds, some I've known, some I may have known, at a distance, may have, at least had an interaction or two with, but I don't know them. Like we hadn't, like kids didn't play soccer together, that kind of stuff. Right. So you got to go out, talk to people and, see if they will support you. And then the process of starting to raise money, which, still learning like how to feel comfortable asking people like, yeah, and then could you donate, and then asking in a way where it's, I mean, I guess we call it a donation, but it's, it's not like I guess it's a donation. It's just not tax deductible. Yeah. And then the process of actually doing all the things you got to do to run, it's a daunting experience. People ask you very personal questions. You got to decide who to talk to, who not to talk to. I think I don't know if I made clear points, but so the first one was very challenging to go around and like ask people to endorse me because it's very personal. Then talk to all these different organizations and get them to endorse me. And then decide for my own self, make sure I knew why I was running, right? How well could I speak to, my values and, what I wanted to do here. And then, just a very surreal thing that at some point, at least as of the count of right now, at least 23,000 people said, Justice, you're our guy.
in the abstract, it might be, in life, it's not a lot of times you get validated about like your decision to do something, but when you run for office, people actually got it right. You got to fill in the little circles, you know what I'm saying? Or at least in Oregon, I don't know, other states. Here, you get a ballot at the crib and you fill in the circles and you drop it off. I know other places you got to hit the levers or you push the button on the screen or whatever. But at some point, I'm processing, like emotionally, like, wow, at least 20,000 people said, Justice, we trust you. And when you go in there and you're in the room making decisions and reading reports and asking questions, there's a certified body of folks who said we think you're the best person, to do the job, at least of those we had the opportunity to consider. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I mean, first, man, congratulations, my brother, just for doing it, for making that decision to, implicit and explicit in, our values is the idea of service, right? Service to humanity, service to your family, service to your community, service to your people, service to humanity, right? And so you have that, and that's an implicit and explicit thing. That can play out different ways, though. It can play out in a very individualistic way if you choose it to, or it can come out in a very kind of broader communal way. And I think when you decide to run for an office and say you're going to be in service to a position, and you have identified that you think you are the best person to do that thing, right? And there's something, to your point, there's something to be said when you have come to that conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask others to align themselves to that same idea and conclusion, that is really living out the values of saying, like, I'm going to get off of the side, I'm going to get off of, the bench, if you will, and get in the game or become the man or woman in the arena that is actually going to activate ideas in order to advance things I think are important. So I want to congratulate you for that, because in this time we've become, our society is filled with people who have perspectives on things, on how they think things should be. And they may or may not be participatory in the process of making those things real. So, for those that choose to do that, there's something to be said. And in winning or losing, there's something to be said in that. The other thing I think is, Black men particularly have a challenge with fundraising. And it, when I went through a program long ago, around people running for office, it was a program for folks that would run for office. And I never had the interest. I wanted to understand the mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about how, like, as a Black man, you have to get over that. And you find that not only in politics, you also find it even in business, where, in our communities, there's something there where it's like when you ask someone for something, you then become automatically leveraged because you asked them for something, right? Oh man, let me get $50. Man, remember you owe me $50. Remember you asked me about that? I gave you $50. I ain't even have it, right? So as Black men, we end up being like, we don't ask nobody who's going to try to over leverage us for support. So you have to actually get out of that mindset and understand that what you are doing is asking them to give to you to further good government in a society we want to see.
Yeah.
Not you personally. And that's a big thing when you can separate the idea of you personally versus you universally, right? I'm asking you to give to me as part of something that, to me, obviously, because I'm asking you to do it for me, but it's actually bigger as well.
Yeah, yeah. And that is definitely one of the things that in my like I said, nascent notes so far is sort of the like that, the money that folks are contributing to you and something actually my campaign manager, shout out to Shani, like I kind of like ran things myself, getting it together, and then like the last 5 weeks or so, Ross By on to help me kind of like, because I was just gonna say I was freaking out a little bit because I was like, I gotta do a bunch of stuff. I'm not 100% sure how to do all this stuff, and it would be great if someone could help me so that I can I can focus my mind on other parts of this and I can trust others. But one, the accepting the idea that actually people believe in you and they want you to be successful because they see you as someone that can do something good, right? At least that's, depending on, maybe some people might have other orientations to politics, but that's mine in terms of civic service, is that people think that you can go and do works that will be positive and impactful. So allow that to happen, like make the space in your own mind that you can trust that people want to, support you, people want to promote you. And then people want to make sure you get there so that you could be successful, but also you being successful means that our society is like successful, which is like, okay.
It's a pretty lofty, I mean, when you separate it from the stuff that's in the trenches and the horse shit that we see, but the idea of it is actually, pretty high minded.
Yeah, absolutely. So, probably at some point I'll have more thoughts on it, but it seems like one of those things that I shouldn't obscure from the conversation. Is our discussions are about sort of the experiential reality of being Black men and our lives and relationships and living in America and everything else. That I am now an elected I'm an elected official. I guess I don't take office until July. But it's a I get, I go to one.
The honorable.
They be like,
now you get, listen.
I'm the honorable. Does that come with the school board?
You get to be once honorable? You get elected. I think once you win an elected official, like to once past this, I may be wrong, but I think, like, for example, city council people are looked as honorable, but you won 23,000 votes. Like,
that's cool.
I'm sure if you look at council people or committee people, maybe they don't win as quite many as that particular number.
Okay, I'll take that. That this is true.
And I think it's important to note here in my Kanye voice, everything is Justice Rajee. Everything is Justice Rajee. Everything is Justice Rajee. But I mean, and, I say that somewhat in jest, but the bigger picture, again, God, congratulations for making yet another decision to actualize your values in the dimension of public service. And it is a part of us being Black men. And, we see this, there's this really interesting spectrum between everything is for public consumption or nothing's for public consumption.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I know that a lot of men in our orientations to Black men, it's like nothing's for public consumption for a variety of reasons, right? Like, nothing, like, my thing is over here. You could be doing a whole bunch of stuff, and people are like, yeah, I keep it to myself. I just do the work, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then you have kind of, I don't want to say now, because there's always been people who have always been trying to get inside of have the spotlight. But now you have a situation where people become known and get fame and actually become well paid from everything being seen.
Yeah.
Right. And so finding that mix that makes sense for you, for every individual, is important, but to actually project the common good and the public service, man, you to be just praise for that, you know what I mean? And to use another movie was, a term, you got the juice now, Jess. You know what I mean? You got the juice now, man.
Absolutely. It's So more to be revealed and definitely more to learn, especially once I actually, start the job. You know what I'm saying? And just for the public record, when you serve civically in your community, it is a job. You know what I'm saying? It's like getting a second job, maybe part-time, maybe almost a little close to full-time, depending on what's happening and how much time and energy put into it. But, the only other thing I definitely, before we move on to some other topics, I would want to say to others is, dependent, whatever your circumstance, situation, space is, consider, serving on one of your local, boards, commissions, even if you're not in a big city or a big area, because those places do actually get to make a lot of decisions, but that impact the well-being of what's happening where you might be at. Bigger places might be a little bit more work versus smaller places. But if they got a library board, they need somebody over there, you know what I'm saying, to check out what's happening. You know what I mean? And if it's elected, that might be you. You know what I mean? So, and also I'm happy to chit chat with anybody that would like to get the more inside view, like, of what it feels and experience. Like I ain't spilling all the beans right here, right now. So, you know what I'm saying? I say also I'm still processing because this just happened on Tuesday. So it's still a little bit like, oh wow, I won. You know what I mean? So yeah. In transitions, something else happened over the weekend. And we had discussed Ja Morant and flashing the gun and behavior and some other things. And over last weekend, another video surfaced of this seemed like, what basically looked like, getting hyped while taking a ride in the car, which anyone that's been, in their 20s riding with your peoples and your song come on, if we had phones and we was into it, it probably would have been a video floating around of us, I would say I was at a community event last night, and Queen Latifah was one of the speakers. And in my head, I kept saying "straight out of Jersey," like Redman would say. But and so then I started like reliving all of the music of our youth, and being in the car and being excited because we was going somewhere to do something. If we was in a car, we didn't always have access to cars, but when we did have them, and we was riding, and you'd be excited, and then the excitement for whatever reasons, Ja. This man looks and realized Ja got a gun in his hand and tried to put the phone down, but the cat was already out the bag, and ensued a national debate around everything from the idea that he's going to be he's suspended by his team, all of the stuff, but then also this larger debate around like what should be done here, and then some folks raising, what actually is the problem, right? And I think I can articulate pretty clearly what I think the problem is, but I know other folks, wanted to at least raise, it's a little bit of the whataboutisms, what I'm saying, of like, well, it was a different context, or there's other things, or as Chris came in, with his hunting guns and giant rifles and armor doing something with like headsets on and stuff. Anyway, long story short, we're back to talking about this young man's career, his life, quite frankly, on a national stage. And so I guess I just want to tip the ball to you, what I'm saying, figuratively, and like, what is your thoughts, kind of on the resurfacing of the situation with this young man?
Yeah, man. I trying to process it a little differently this time. Because in our communities, because of the politics of scarcity, right? Mm-hmm. The politics of scarcity are such where we're like, man, if you get an opportunity to do something that someone else can't do, don't mess it up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? And that is a really big thing in the Black psyche, right? It's the politics of scarcity, because so few of us get a chance to do the stuff we want to do, that if you do get a chance, our perspective is you represent all of us, and you get the opportunity that some of us don't get. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So then we look at you and say, if you were doing something that I wouldn't do, you're a moron. Mm-hmm. But I had to step back from that concept, because I have been a proponent of that in the past, kind of implicitly, right? Like nothing I never thought to myself that that's how I thought, but that is part of it. Mm-hmm. Number one, this young man clearly is grappling with what it means for fame. Mm-hmm. He's having a challenge with what it means for fame, given who he is, the position he finds himself in. And, I'm going to get to this other point here, but like, he necessarily wasn't the guy that from 10 years old knew that he was going to be probably the most famous American prospect in current basketball, in professional basketball.
Yeah.
So going to that is something, right? And I think there's a reason you don't see some of the European players, or even African players, with some of these challenges, right? These are some distinctly and uniquely American challenges. And I ain't saying black challenges. There are some distinctly American challenges. So he's grappling with something of fame, of fortune, of maybe unresolved anger issues, of, what does it mean to have my life on TV 24/7, even if I'm putting my life on TV 24/7. And so I have to step back from this idea of you're doing something, you're so dumb, you could lose $1 gazillion. Because maybe there's an issue that goes beyond the politics of scarcity in this young man's life. And let's start there versus the obvious, you black, you messing it up. Right. So that's where I am with this situation.
Yeah.
Like this I'm not on the, Second Amendment play. And the reason I'm not on the Second Amendment play because if Ja Morant was a avid gun lover and Second Amendment guy, I would be with that. If that's what he was doing.
Right.
If he was a hunter, I would be with that. Black hunters and black folks who deal with hunting, we have a long history of it. And I'm not talking about the politics of how you think about hunting, but there's a long history of it.
Absolutely.
So if that was the case, this is a decidedly urban case, which does not really reflect the lifestyle that Ja Morant prior to maybe something in the last 1 or 2 years has been engaging.
Yeah.
Right. So that's that. The other thing is I was thinking about this. Remember in the 80s when the NBA had that period where it seemed like all the good players in the NBA were like flaming out, like Michael Ray Richardson, Chris Washburn, like that kind of weird place in like 85 to 80, 84 to 87.
Cocaine was destroying
with cocaine. It just was like knocking these guys down, right? And then you get the generation of folks who like didn't kind of have that go on, right? The NBA blows up. So you don't have that population. Then you get Iverson, right? And not just Al, a set of folks around Allen Iverson that we don't talk about no more because they're not in the league. With a set of bringing things coming from some spaces in our community. And, there's articles written about Al and, it is what it is. Shout out to TGI Fridays on City Line Avenue. Because it is never a place in time where you had a basketball player that was so connected to one restaurant. He would go every night. So shout out to Iverson for that. It made me realize, the reason I'm giving this historical context at this point, it made me realize that LeBron James and Steph Curry are the outliers. They're not the exception. I mean, they're not the rule. Again, I can show you a whole bunch of guys that went from the pros. Went from high school to the pros, and the vast majority of them players flamed out.
Yeah.
Right? Melo, shout out to brother Carmelo. He has resuscitated his reputation. When he'll talk about the fact when he was hanging out with dudes in the street and David Stern came to him and said, we know everybody you be with and stop being with them right now.
Yeah.
Right? So my point about that is the thing that LeBron did to come in, never get jammed up, Steph Curry, father being a pro player, but shit, so was Ja Morant. They're like the exception of just like this single-minded understanding from the beginning of how they're functioning. A lot more of these guys find themselves with some challenges than don't. We're still having conversations about James Harden going to Vegas to party at night before he comes in place, which probably had a lot to do with why Doc Rivers is no longer the coach of the Sixers.
Absolutely.
So that's really what this made me think, man, that like what he's going through, again, is more obvious because we just got more cameras on. But these are the challenges of how these guys cope with fame. And they cope with going from being a person that plays basketball well to supporting multiple families.
Yeah.
I think to myself, if you had me at 23 years of age and you put millions of dollars in my hand, how would I have conducted myself? And while I think I would have known not to have a gun on a screen, I'm sure there's a host of other decisions I would have made that would have been crazy.
Yeah.
And so, that's really what it is to me, man. The politics of scarcity, understanding how our people see the situation. But let's understand that the mental emotional stress, if stress burns out corporate guys every day, right? That makes all kind of crazy mistakes. They make all kind of mistakes of having consensual relationships at work, which you just can't have anymore, right? But these people that make 10, 20, $30 million a year do the same thing. They make decisions that do not reflect it. The difference is the politics of scarcity don't apply to them in many of our minds. The politics of scarcity for a young Black man applies so deeply that I think we might put a little more on it than it deserves. So
yeah, it's the interesting. And the only thing in the even in the like second wave of this conversation that listening to a couple different commentators and other stuff and kind of raising like it is a salient issue to inquire like that ultimately, like, can we all talk about what we're seeing and why we're worried, like why we're responding negatively? Because right, like you could make the I mean, ultimately, to me, like the subtext of all this is sort of like this potential, marketing face of the league looking like, for sure, a percentage of the viewing audience is like perceived fear, of Black men in a public space. Like, I don't think that the visual goes to just like, oh man, look at the irresponsibility of how he's using that firearm. It goes to he has a firearm, ergo, therefore, i.e., whatever, equivalent word or connecting concept you want to use there, he is dangerous, right? Even if you're in a state that right now has like no, we were just dealing with, the expulsion of members due to, recent, related to gun use, gun control, gun laws, right? So I experience it from the lens of someone who's worked with young men that were involved in various things and making transitions and coming home from facilities and other things where like if a video like this surfaced of one of my guys when I was doing that work, our question would be to him, would be, I mean, like, one, your PO already seen it. And so you're going to need to go speak to that man and work that out. You know what I'm saying? Because even if they can't, they probably can't, I don't know the legalities of it. They probably can't charge you with, felon in possession of a weapon if you ain't have the weapon when they, I don't know how that works, but something gonna happen. And then the deeper question is like, what's happening with you that this is, what you're broadcasting, right? And it becomes like, I think, a really icky, weird national conversation, which goes like basically, well, the big problem is you're harming the brand because you're associating the brand with driving around with a pistol in your hand, right? So, which like it seems, I don't know, at least to me, it feels sort of like, oh, this is a icky ass conversation to have. To go like the NBA, all of the people that's on the jerseys, the sneaker, your sneaker deal, and that at some point I think for some people it looks really bad. It looks like you're associating with, what we may assume it looks like when folks are involved in other types of activities in communities and neighborhoods and in streets when they're driving around with guns. I look at it from a just like, I'm worried about something bad happening to you because one, it's a firearm. I can't separate cognitively that if a firearm is out, that it's not going to do firearm things, which is, especially handguns are primarily designed to like shoot people. They're not.
And there is and I think there is a very real thing here that we have to say. I think we try to make sure we get the systems level thinking.
Yeah.
But as black men, there's also a very real thing here. Like, you're riding around with a pistol. So, and not the guy behind you, to be very honest.
Right.
Not the four guys with you who should have been trained and already trained as security guards. But what's going on as you riding around with a pistol?
Right.
Right? Like, I mean, that's a real thing. Like, where are you going to be at that you personally feel like you need to have a pistol? Not security, who may have an automatic machine gun on it. Right? Because we're not talking about the presence of firearms, right?
Right.
When you see any famous person, the people with them are strapped down.
Yeah, there's vests, there's stuff going on. There's body armor, there's
body
microphones
armor,
and headsets.
There's
all kinds of
blackjacks. You guys got all kind of stuff on them. So let's be real. It's not about the presence of a weapon. It is about where in your mind is this something that you need to be. Then you need to be the leader of that mission. Not to have organized security as your friends to be the leader of that mission.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, I want to think systems level, but as a black man, as a father of black boys, there is a very real, do you understand what comes with this conversation?
Yeah.
And are you prepared for what comes with this?
Yeah. And so like I'm there on one point, and then the other one, in which I think creates a very, like, from a systems level, again, like, how do you engage, and particularly when you think about it, and I'm gonna try to see if there's a way I can make this analogy. So you have an NBA player, you have a person with a highly unique position, economic position and leverage in what they do, right? So how do you engage that person and try to use, whatever other levers of connection to say, we as the people who, I guess, are almost like your business partners, don't trust your judgment seems to be a risk to this business we're in together. I think I'm getting there, right? Where let's say you were the, let's do this because everyone loves these wonderkin, supposedly super smart tech people, and they turn out to be frauds sometimes. But you the dude who just, the crypto dude, and you're 20, he's a little bit older than Ja, like 29, 27, not that much older in the grand scheme of things, right? And you are engaging in behavior that the people who have put billions of venture capital dollars into your thing goes, hey man, what you getting into over there? Because we have billions of dollars attached to you, right? We don't typically talk about basketball players that way, but in a sense, like, that is to me, that's the subtext under this, is this person who then represents like kind of an investment in what's going to happen with NBA basketball, and then by proxy, everybody that needs live sports to make money and to do stuff, doing things that make us worried that either he won't be around because something bad's going to happen to him, or people will be negative on him because of what they see, how they perceive what they've seen him doing. And so then we're trying to like find some sort of way to like make him do different things, right? And it puts, I think, us in this other like relief, and something that I always think about with like, I mean, I've said this on this before, like when the same behavior is happening with someone who we don't think has as much promise, we're upset by it, but we don't feel, I guess, I think even Tiny, like you're just the scarcity. I was scared that we don't maybe feel like, I don't know, like we need to have the same type of a clarion call for accountability or change or whatever, with that, or at least not people in mass. I used to work in a world where other
we put
people
them
are
on the
doing
slag
that.
heap.
Yeah, we kind of go like, oh man, hope we don't hear about, fill in the blank.
It's part of we charge it as part of the game, man. And listen, I think we should be honest. There's a certain population we say it's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not part of the game for nobody,
right?
But we'll say it's part of the game. The politics of scarcity, and yes, if you willingly entered into a contract to sell shoes with/for someone, if you willingly enter into a contract, those contracts all say, at the very, very fine print, that your endorsements can be rescinded for matters of personal, behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, clearly, this is implicit and explicit in the agreement you made with these people. And yes, does the fact that, again, you are the kind of best born in America prospect currently in basketball have an impact on it? Yes. Right? Because no one's going to have to go get the Greek Freaks shoes.
Mm-hmm.
No one's running to get the Jokic 24s.
Yeah.
Right?
It's cold.
Like, nobody's running to get the Embiids. Like, seriously.
Yeah, no, they're not.
So these guys, these international players who are now the 4 or the 5 best players in the league, and Ja, I think, has to be very careful before he finds his role in the pantheon of basketball fall somewhat precipitously, and not because of his challenges off the court.
Yeah, just because of being good at basketball.
Yeah, and the thing is, the way he plays, it ain't forever.
Oh yeah, no, he's gonna stop all that reckless abandon stuff. He ain't gonna make
it. Yeah, that jumping over people and all that. So I really do, again, like, there is this idea of, and I'm going to go back to LeBron and Steph Curry, because I think they both in some ways have set this precedent of how I think a lot of people think rich basketball players should act. Right? And that ain't a spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I was using my point about, like, executives in corporate finance. Like, hey, you get caught having a relationship, even though it could be consensual. You get caught having a relationship, people tell you can't do that, and you don't tell the board, like, but you keep doing it.
Yeah.
There's a compulsory behavior there that's set up with power.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we should also acknowledge Ja Morant has some part of compulsion to behavior because of perceptions of power.
Yeah.
Just like in the street, people have certain behaviors because of perception of power.
Absolutely.
And I think his mental and emotional health is the bigger thing here. He'll take a seat, because I'm going to be a little bit hyperbolic. It's just not really my usual way of doing things. I kind of think they're going to sock it to Ja on a level like the Malice at the Palace.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they're going to make a point here.
Yeah.
Whenever you see, discipline like at the Malice at the Palace, and I'm sure you'll put some in the notes so folks will be able to go watch the documentary on the Malice in the Palace. For what happened, it was, these fights are getting out of hand. None of you want the punishment of what is coming your way.
Yeah.
And David Stern was clear about that.
Yeah.
I think Adam Silver, it's also clear about it. And I think he will get the response of, like, all of you who think that this may not be punished, you have another thing coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and where we're looking at time, I think, we'll just wrap on this topic. And I think there's something, though, in an age where we share so much, right? And then if you are someone like a public figure, like a basketball player, even if you're not a popular basketball player, you probably all basketball players have some level of like, check out my Instagram. Here's me, buying suits or whatever. You're a rotation dude, but you still, you still an NBA player, right? You still, I guess especially
you're still
NBA
one of the
player.
best 500 or so players in the
right and on earth. You know what I'm saying, right? So to kind of go, hey y'all, just in case you you think you could do whatever you want to do on your social media. You know what I'm saying? Like we your business partners, and that's just as air quotes, partners, want to have a say in, or at least when something is out of bounds, that we're going to talk about, hey man, this is out of bounds. You know what I'm saying? And as always, I just hope the overall level of concern is also about like the health and well-being of the young man that we're talking about, and not just the circumstances around the young man and people finding that challenge. And that's all. I mean, we could stay real brief. I don't want to take too much time. You know what I'm saying? Add on, we can maybe on Jim Brown passed just the day before. And I don't have a whole bunch to say about it, but you should look up Jim Brown, and from the his impact on professional football, his impact as an athlete, activist. Some also, Jim, like some others from that age, got, and not just that age, shit, from a lot of ages, got some other marks on the record in terms of his treatment of women. Also some recent political decisions, especially the last 10 years, kind of, a lot of, as I call, older black man individualism.
Absolutely.
in politics.
You can find it every barbershop in America. If you wanted, let me just say, I think we can give him his time and give him like what he's owed.
Yeah.
But I will say for people, and I'm going to say this is for younger people, and this is for non-black people. This also relates to like non-brown folks, I'm sure, because the brown folks also have the politics of some of their older uncles and tios and everything. If you want to find out what is driving older black men to say certain stuff, go to a barbershop. Because there is a set of fears and ideas that pervade the decision making, and I think Jim Brown and others that we've discussed before are often representative of those sets of things. Again, that doesn't give it a pass. It just means, like anything, we kind of want to get to the source of it.
Yeah.
But I think that will, again, it's all part of the conversation about black men and kind of how we show up. So
yeah. So we'll return to it. But with that, you got anything else you want to add on?
Everything is Justice Rajee, y'all. So just so y'all remember, if you take nothing else from this show this week, everything is Justice Rajee. So in my Kanye voice. So again, God, congratulations, man. And the young people, the children are the greatest, and the young people of Beaverton, I think are going to be better off that you're explicitly in their service around the running of the school district.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And so with that, I'll say peace.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to Good Brothers. Thank you to my good brother, Majestic. I'm going to keep the outro super brief because, as I stated earlier, this is a super late release. But please, thank you for listening and supporting. You know the deal. Rate, subscribe, share wherever you do your thing at. And, you can always support the podcast by heading to the Etsy shop, buy a sweatshirt, buy a t-shirt. If you head to the Oldhead website, buy a sweatshirt there. It's even better. Eventually, the whole shop's going to be moved over there. So look for that in through the summer and through the fall. Man, thanks for supporting, and keeping my little baby creative channel open as I try to get my life right amidst my new responsibilities. But in any event, I appreciate you for listening, and I hope it was useful and productive for you. Peace.